you enjoyed your light lunch. Let's proceed with the second part of our discussion today. I'm very pleased to welcome the next panelists, starting with the Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Greece, Mr. Josh Huck. Welcome. Mr. Konstantinos Sifneos, the Vice President and Managing Director of Gas Trade. Mrs. Maria Rita Galli, the CEO of the Hellenic Gas Transmission System Operator, DESFA. Mrs. Theodora Georgieva, the Executive Officer and Board Member of the ICGB. Mr. Vladimir Malinov, the CEO of Bulgar Transgas. And Mr. George Saltas, the Executive Officer and Board Member of the ICGB. So please have a seat, and I hope you left a seat for me. So dear panelists and dear attendees, I'm very pleased to welcome everyone to this panel. We have a lot of interesting topics to discuss, and about the vertical corridor and the role of diversified LNG sources. This topic is particularly interesting following the post-Ukraine energy landscape and the role that Greece wants to play as an energy hub, but also for the European energy diversification. I've already introduced the panelists, so I'll skip that step. And I will start. We have many speakers and not so much time, so I'll please ask all of the panelists to limit their answers to a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, please. So I'll start with the Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Greece, Mr. Huck, who will bring the U.S. diplomatic perspective on energy diversification. Mr. Huck, what do you think Greece can contribute to projects like the vertical gas corridor, and what will this mean for the U.S.-Greece and transatlantic energy ties?
Well, thank you so much for the question, and let me also first say a huge thank you to the organizers here. Thank you to the U.S. Hellenic Chamber of Commerce, to the Atlantic Council, for the Global Energy Institute at the U.S. Chambers of Commerce. Thank you also to all my distinguished panelists here. It's wonderful to be here, and it's an honor to be among you, so thank you so much. To answer your question first, we see Greece as a emerging energy hub. This is something that the Greek government deserves great credit for, and an enormous amount of work has been put in through many different players to help achieve this. But the United States, as a deep, long-standing partner of Greece, is honored to be a supporter in this effort. What does Greece bring? Well, many things, but in particular, there's geography. It matters in energy, and Greece has it. As we were discussing in a previous panel earlier, several of us, the longstanding challenge in Europe has been the Russian monopoly of energy supply moving from east to west. And the vertical corridor breaks that monopoly by adding a from south to north option: Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Moldova, and on to Ukraine. Absolutely critical, Greece's geography in that. But that brings me to the second point, good governance and leadership. You could have the geography, but if you don't take the steps, if you're not committed as a government to making it happen, it won't. And so Greece has done that, and so we've had a great partner in Greece and the ecosystem of energy here in Greece more broadly. But then finally, also, you really need the investments, you need the infrastructure, and that's taken place as well here. The United States has played a role in that through our Development Finance Corporation, DFC. The U.S., this is a government body, has invested 125 million into the Elefsina shipyards to make that facility able to service LNG ships so that we can get more LNG cargo through the vertical corridor. And then also at the floating storage and regasification unit in Alexandroupoli, the United States, U.S. companies are a leading player in that, in particularly the U.S. company Venture Global. So in all those areas, we see Greece as a critical partner. I would just conclude by saying energy is only one part of an incredibly broad and deep alliance that we have with Greece. We'll be focused on energy today, so I'm not going to go into all the other areas, but I want to stress the degree of focus that the Trump administration has on the U.S.-Greece relationship. It's an honor to be here, to be a part of not just keeping this relationship at a high level, but continuing to elevate our game to do more and more in all the areas that matter to the people of Greece and the people of the United States. Security, energy, trade, law enforcement, expanding people-to-people ties like tourism and culture and so on. So we have an enormous amount we can accomplish in this relationship, and energy is a crucial piece of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huck. Let's move to the business sector of our panel, and I will ask Mr. Sifneos to start. As we have discussed all morning, we see Greece and Europe, of course, working on its transformation of the energy landscape, having diversification, security of supply, and resilience as the top three priorities. In this context, in these pillars, how do you see the vertical gas corridor playing a role in reshaping regional energy and strengthening, of course, Europe's overall energy security, but also its competitiveness at the end of the day?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was looking
Yes,
the wrong side.
it's very unusual, but since we're talking about transformation, we should be very open-minded.
Great. I have to remind to our audience here, which may have not been familiar, that this actual event has started 9 years ago in Alexandroupolis. That's where we had our the first conference, and Alexandroupolis. This event has kind of grown together with our project, the FSRU. We are happy because this is the 9th event, and it's the first one where the project is actually in operation. I have this bad habit of showing slides, but I'm going to be quite brief because I think maps and graphs sometimes tell the story. So this is about realizing the vertical corridor, and the vertical corridor is a tool basically to do two things: secure the supply of Southeastern and Central Europe and diversify the supply. And Southeast Europe is quite a sensitive area in the sense that not only traditionally it was an area which was, allow me the word, almost monopolistically dominated by Russian gas, but the thing is, it's still probably the only obvious area in Europe where there are still a lot of volumes, a lot of molecules of Russian gas coming in. And the other thing about this area, it's one of the few areas in Europe which we anticipate a material growth of gas demand within the next 5 years, and that's what we're trying to show there. So this is a slide familiar for a few of you, but there is a significant growth which needs to be covered. So the magnitude of this, it's in the region of 17 billion cubic meters per year. But if you actually think about how much Russian gas is also in this region, then we're talking about quite a material number, which is about 30 BCM. So it's like 60% of what the market is today. So this is really, when we're talking about security of supply, this is what the the vertical corridor can tap into. And this is the vertical corridor, actually, as you can see. And we have, as members of the vertical corridor, two main tasks here. One is to make sure that the infrastructure is there and there's enough infrastructure and interconnectivity to make this happen. That's part of the realizing. The other one, we need to make sure that this is a competitive tool. And in this direction, we have seen some great initiatives recently, some kind of end-to-end products to try to supply, let's say, the present needs of Ukraine, filling storages basically, through an integrated route product from Greece to Ukraine. Whether that has been successful or not, I don't think it's really the issue here. The issue, it's something that has been discussed and it has started from talking to traders and from talking to the market. What we understand that this shouldn't stop now. It should expand. It should become more long-term, give some more vision to shippers. So it's now monthly products. This should become longer term, so quarterly, annual product to give the room for traders to view it as a bit of a more longer term approach. The last thing I want to show, and then I'll come back, is different routes for supplying Ukraine. So the vertical corridor, it doesn't stand, it's not the only route to supply Ukraine. So you have other routes. You have potential supply from Poland, from Lithuania, from Germany, and also from Croatia. So we, as members of the vertical corridor, we need to be competitive to be able to give a product for the Ukrainian market and the markets on the route that is at least at par with the other options that they have. Now, realizing the corridor means that we should actually, what is this corridor about? This is moving, this is about diversification. This is about moving LNG cargoes from the Greek terminals further north. And for doing this, apart from the actual infrastructure and the cost of transportation, there is another element in the middle which has to do with the comparative pricing between LNG and, in fact, Russian gas in the region and its pricing. And what we need to see is how and when we would see this initiative from the Commission, which is to discontinue supply of Russian gas in the region. How and when would this implemented? And I'll give a bit more examples later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sifneos. Mrs. Galli, do you like to offer your perspective, please?
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here again because, let's say, we have seen in this platform, in this meeting, in this conference, many of the projects we have been talking about maturing and becoming real and becoming, let's say, operational. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, let me say that, let's say, following what Kostis was mentioning, we have different dimensions on the vertical corridor. The first one, of course, is infrastructure capacity. And this is something that, let's say, is maturing in the sense that not everything has been completed with respect to the vertical corridor capacity implementation, but projects are undergoing both in Greece, in Bulgaria, and let's say in Ukraine, for which this capacity progressively in the course of this year, next year, in particular on the Bulgarian side, will become larger and larger, because today the amount of capacity that we are making available is also constrained by effective bottlenecks, and the purpose of our collaboration has been to identify this bottleneck and to find a way of launching and implementing projects. So looking for financing, everything has been quite an effort done by the respective players and countries to make this happen. So I think that we can say that the full capacity of the vertical corridor should be available, let's say, consistently with the European decision for the phase out of Russian gas. There is the commercial dimension. The commercial dimension is, again, how to facilitate the life of the companies that are interested in using this product. And that's why, let's say, and there's been a big cooperative effort, we have launched this super bundled capacity product starting from this summer. This is the baby step of something that, of course, we'll see more routes, but also more products in terms of duration, in terms of capacity availability. But unfortunately, and I have to say unfortunately, to give a measure of how significant this baby step has been, in the last, let's say, at the end of July, beginning of August, the metering regulating station of Orlovka in the border between Romania and Ukraine, that is the entry in Ukraine of the vertical corridor, has been damaged by, let's say, by bombing from the Russian war. So, let's say, it's not a nice way to assess the strategic relevance of an initiative, but definitely the signal that this tool has the potential really to, let's say, bring a significant in the future diversification of sources of supply has, materialized. And that's also a reason why now we have some constraint in the utilization of the available capacity, because our colleagues of Ukraine TSO have to do some works to repair the Orlovka metering and regulating station. So we have seen the start, and the market has reacted, the capacity has been sold. We had for the first time the possibility for Ukrainian importers to buy at the European hub, liquid hub, and which has been quite a significant achievement. Projects are ongoing on our side. By the end of this year, we are completing all the compressor station in Ambeli and Komotini that will enable to reach the maximum export capacity of 8.5 BCM, and next year we will start the construction of the east-west axis in the north that needed to be enhanced to connect the two vertical corridors in Greece, the one starting from Alexandroupolis and the other one starting from Revitus. I leave it to my colleagues to comment on their progresses, but let's say this year we can say has been, we pushed the button, we have started selling the capacity of this initiative. Now we don't measure the success in 3 months when, let's say, it's in the middle of the summer and with all the things that I mentioned are going on. This is a project, an initiative that is being built and aimed at making available long-term capacity for the phase-out of Russian gas.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Gali. And Mrs. Georgieva, maybe you can also add about the broader geopolitical and strategic opportunities this initiative unlocks for Greece, Bulgaria, of course, and the region in general.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for having a chance to talk again here for the 3rd time. So it's really a pleasure because it is a good momentum to share for such initiatives like Vertical Corridor. And let's say regarding your questions, so geopolitical importance is significant. As my colleague has previously mentioned, it has been enhancing a lot given that the European Union has announced that by 2027 Russian gas is going to be phased out. So it's giving immediately a big gap at the level of 59 BCM, which we need to let's say the importance of LNG, especially the one from Americans, is going to be of high importance and vital importance in order to recover, and it is in connection with energy security, sovereignty. So that's how the role of Vertical Corridor is even more important. We've done a lot together with my colleagues, doing together incremental capacity, also let's say implementing. Now we are implementing also 2 other routes. So yes, it's from infrastructure point of view, what is important is that we are putting the good platform of cooperation and solidarity in a very tough moment in order to show that we are ready. So the market is still not there, but I'm very much, let's say, we do have hopes, given that this year we understood that there are more than four projects has taken FID from America, so still lots of LNG to come. So we do not have as an infrastructure commitment, but there are hopes that we need to think together strategically and to implement even upgrade our infrastructure and doing all the steps in order to be ready by 2027. So yes, a geopolitical role of a vertical corridor is important. IGB standing like a cornerstone, combining south being part of Southern Gas Corridor, connected with TAP and also vertical gas corridor. So that's why we, as in infrastructure, need very much to, let's say, to upgrade this as quick as possible. On the other hand, it's not so easy given that there is not high utilization to convince our shareholder for investment. But still, this platform of unity that we are representing right now, together with allies like USA, I think it's going to make the difference and boost the process to be really quicker and to be on time, because it's strategically important by 2027 to put all the efforts to be ready. With this product that we are going to be part of right now, thank you for all the cooperation that we do have with the vertical corridor operators, because it is not only a vision that what we are doing, it's already in actions by implementing product. Now we are part of second and third products, which we are giving. Even IGB succeeded, which was a testimony of our organization itself. We reached a 46% discount in order to enhance competitiveness, the same discounts that your Ukrainian TSO is giving. So by this, we would like to show that we are really caring for solidarity. So yes, we are giving the platforms in order to be utilized by our network users. So yeah, it's lots of geopolicy. That's why we need to act now and think strategically and be together. And that's what we are showing with my colleagues for the vertical corridor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Malinov, do you share also that view?
Thank you, Mr. President. I used to have the honor to be just on half of these 9 forums present in different kind of capacities, and but maybe I could allow myself to be a little bit provocative, because yeah, we have already proven that we could work together. Nevertheless, how hard it is, let's say, to combine the efforts and to have a mutual consent between 9 different operators of gas infrastructure from 7 different countries. So this is proven. We are progressing. So, because not to repeat what was previously mentioned by my colleagues, we will deliver. We will deliver the infrastructure. As Maria mentioned, even we have much more aggressive plans and targets that for the next annual auctions, this infrastructure will be in place and this increased capacity will be offered to the market. But using the opportunity to be on a American Hellenic Chamber of Commerce, having the chance to welcome the new chargé d'affaires of the United States in Greece, Mr. Hack. So maybe it's, and if I may rephrase, we as a TSOs, with of course the strong political support from the US government, from the European Union, and from the member states of this vertical gas corridor, we have made the first step. But maybe it's now the time to make the huge leap from the regional mankind. So from that perspective, maybe it's now the chance, okay, because there will be further steps which already have been mentioned about the competitiveness of the route, which means very straightly said, means decreasing of the tariff to become this route much more competitive. We are working, we have already proven that about the quality of the gas. Maybe for the audience it's not so well-known topic, but we have already proven through the route products that we could have an agreement reached on that. And so everything which is on our shoulders is achievable. But now maybe it's the proper time for much more stronger involvement of the US companies. And it goes well ahead with the new policy announced by the administration of the President Trump about much more stronger part and game player of the US LNG in the region. So when the infrastructure is here, when the infrastructure logistic costs will be competitive, then we need much more efforts and best endeavors to be put to bring the US LNG producers and they to commit for this real diversification and full ban, prohibition, you may call it like it is, of Russian gas. Because without strong long-term commitments from US LNG companies, the efforts will not pay for.
Thank you, Mr. Malinov. Mr. Satlas, would you also like to elaborate a little bit?
With pleasure and thank you. We are delighted to be here in this panel by the American Chambers in Greece. It's great that we have Mr. Joshak here also with us, because all the other that we participate in this panel, we are working together in projects like the Vertical Gas Corridor, which is a very important project. The good thing, as my colleagues also mentioned, Ms. Gali, is that this project is now a reality. So with these baby steps, with this first product, we have tested the product. But we have a long way ahead. I mean, we have to do a lot to make this working. We have to develop products. We have to speak with the regulators. We need the support of the LNG companies in the US, as Mr. Malinov mentioned. But we need also to sit down and enhance our, let's say, perspectives, work better together, so that this vertical corridor becomes an everyday life, let's say. And what we need also is the cooperation of the European Union in this. Because we can develop products, the thing is what the market wants. We should not also forget that in Greece we already have 2 FSRU terminals. We may also develop more. There is need the market discuss about this. So we should not, let's say, stay only in the region, but we should expand. This is a big opportunity here. Greece has become an energy hub. We need to expand on this. Don't forget also that the Greek ship owners possess a big part of what's going on with the LNG shipments. So all in all, this is a win-win situation. Okay, we need to progress the works, but we have seen, I mean, during summer we visited the works in Bulgaria with the ministers and everybody from the EU, and it was great that the works are progressing. We are doing our best from our side. There is room for doing more, for sure. It's good that we have started. This is not a project right now, it's a reality. So we should capitalize on this.
Thank you very much. Mr. Huck, you talked before about the role that you see Greece playing in this vertical corridor. And now, given that Mr. Malinov wants to find out more about what the US role can be in this project, would you like to talk a little bit about what the US can bring?
I would, and it's a perfect segue. So I was going to jump in earlier, but I knew I would have a chance. But I appreciate the comments very much. And I guess let me say, just broadly stepping back about the U.S. role. The U.S. is very proud that from the earliest days we've been a supporter of the vertical corridor. And of course, in early days that was sort of political support. But over time, as I mentioned, the U.S. has made that concrete in areas like investments to infrastructure and so on. So that's an important piece. But what's one of the most important roles the United States can play as a supplier? The U.S. is the largest LNG supplier in the world, and so of course this will be an important role for the United States and U.S. companies. So there's a couple of things that go into that, and we can talk about this in a little more detail. But of course, when LNG suppliers have a decision of where to send their cargo, they have choices to go anywhere in the world, right? So we need to make the vertical corridor as attractive as possible a destination, and as competitive as possible a destination for those suppliers. How do we do that? Well, one thing is harmonization of the regulatory environment and the tariff rates along the route, so that LNG suppliers know when they're preparing to send a shipment, they know that they can do that in advance, long-term in advance, not just, shortly before, but they can book slots out, and they know what the regulatory and tariff environment will be all the way along the route in advance, right? We need that. And that's a lot of great work has been done in that, and we've made some improvements. We need to continue that work. We've been doing a lot of work, and with huge thanks to the team at the U.S. Embassy here, to pair up potential suppliers with potential consumers and off-takers at points along the route. We need to continue that, though. This is, as we scale up, as we add capacity, we need to make sure that we're making those connections so that the suppliers know that they have buyers at the end of the day when the cargo moves. I'd also just say, kind of even a broader point, there is a real U.S. high-level commitment by this administration to advance U.S. exports of LNG, and in particular to Europe. It was U.S. sales of LNG, or U.S. energy more broadly, was a big part of the deal that was reached between Brussels and Washington, not so long ago. The details of that have to be worked out, but I think the direction of travel is clear, that we're going to be seeing more U.S. energy coming to Europe, and we would like to see more of that coming up through the vertical corridor. I would just say that on that note of high-level interest, it's not just me saying there's interest. I'm happy to say that we expect not one but two U.S. cabinet-level officials to be coming to Greece over the course of the next few months. Many know that Greece will be hosting PTEC in conference in November. We expect our Secretary Wright to be coming out for that, but also next, coming up here in not very long, we also expect to have U.S. Secretary of Interior Burgum, who heads the U.S. Energy Dominance Council, here as well. So don't just take it from me, you'll be taking it, you can hear it from the highest level, cabinet level officials in our government, that this is a priority for us, that we're working closely with all of our partners, especially here in Greece, which has done an outstanding job, but our partners all along the vertical corridor. So look forward to that collaboration in the days ahead.
Thank you very much. From what you say, I don't think there's a doubt that the U.S. interest in this project and in the energy market in general in this area is confirmed, and we're very glad about that. Mr. Sifneos, large-scale projects like these ones are always fraught with risks, either geopolitical or market-related, operational, etc. From your perspective, what are the most pressing risks in this case, and what measures should be taken or have been taken to mitigate them?
It's, measures cannot only be legislative. The market responds. They need to be market responsive. And one of the main things, of course, it's price. But if I'm allowed to go back to the conversation that was opened by Vladimir and Josh jumped in.
Yes, please do. Feel free. Thank you.
The U.S. LNG production accounted for 20% of the worldwide LNG production in 2024. And of the new production, which is already scheduled in FID for the period 2025 to 2028, 59% of this new production will be U.S. production. So by 2028, U.S. production will be, LNG production will be 35% of the world's production, which is, by the way, going to grow anyway 40%. So we're talking about huge numbers here. some of the recent developments that we've seen in China these days, it's, for example, the announced power of Siberia 2, which could move some material volumes of LNG from China elsewhere, if that realizes. So what we actually see that Europe remains and will be gradually even more important for the displacement of US LNG. In that context, what you actually have to fight, and let's go back to our region, what you actually have to fight is how you can actually place this LNG into the market competitively. And right now, what we see is the vertical corridor as a tool, but right now, this actual infrastructure moves more Russian gas than anything else. And this is the truth. Okay? Ukraine receives more Russian gas than from anywhere else. Other places, mainly through, let's say, the Hungary-Slovakia route, but it doesn't matter. This is the reality. So I think either we make, the Russian gas is displaced from this region through effective and efficient regulatory measures, or the US LNG competes with it. Let's put it as bluntly as this. So, or a combination of both. So that's how that's for me the main challenge, if you want. I'm not saying a risk. That's the main challenge in the region, looking forward to the next 2-3 years.
Thank you. Mrs. Galli.
Well, if I may follow up on that, let's say when we talk about the cost of the infrastructure is always of the import terminals, transport pipeline, is always worth to remember that they represent a very, very small percentage of the total cost of gas for the end users. So we are always talking about the costs that are in the range of 3 to 5%. Of course, let's say our region is a region with multiple countries, and therefore, let's say we have more tariffs. But at the same time, the exercise that has been done in the context, of course, of the Route 1 product was to look at, let's say, at the alternative and complementary, I would say, because here it's not a matter of competition, route to make sure that the cost is more or less the same. No matter what, it's true that today we have a price competition in the region, and a price competition where, let's say, pipe gas from Russia is still much cheaper. And this is not a matter of cost of the infrastructure, it's the matter of the cost of the molecule. And even without having to pay the pancake of tariffs up to Moldova and Ukraine, in Greece, in the first 7 months of 2025, we are still receiving the same amount of pipe gas from Russia and LNG. Both of them represent more or less 43-45% of the total import, the difference being gas via pipe from Azerbaijan. So it's clear that, let's say, what the infrastructure operators can do is to make available the highway. Then, let's say, the color of the cars which will go through the highway depends on how they are competitive vis-a-vis the final consumer. And this is something that is particularly relevant in this region, because most of the North and West European has achieved substantial independence from Russian gas. Our region, no. And the LNG cost in Greece the same amount that it cost in Spain, let's say, so the fact that it doesn't succeed to take a bigger stake in this region is because there is much cheaper gas around. There's a fact that as infrastructure operator, we created the condition to replace it. We cannot create, and let's say, and as much as we can reduce our tariff, they are always irrelevant in the context of the total cost of gas. And also we have a limit to how much we can act on our tariff, because we are regulated operators, and if we reduce the tariff for transit, we increase the tariff for the domestic consumers, which is something that you can imagine our governments are not very happy about. So there is a trade-off that is always very delicate. So I think it's a combined effort where, let's say, when and is a result of demand supply, of course. When there is going to be more supply of LNG available, probably the molecular will be able to be as competitive as the pipe gas. The fact remains that, let's say, in this region, this competition is not being as successful as in Western European countries, for the simple reason that there the import routes have been cut contractually or physically. Still, here we still have a very open import route also for pipe gas.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Georgieva?
Okay, so I would like to build on what my colleague has just mentioned. So it is, for me, let's say again, coming from the law of our roles are really to put the platforms to build the infrastructure. On the other hand, we all know that one infrastructure should be feasible in order to be upgraded, and we're talking about 20 years feasibility. So what we are challenging here is that by being being surrounded by a region where lots of Russian gas in, lots of dumping there, LNG potential is high. On the other hand, we are not seeing some really massive European Union measure in order to mitigate Russian gas. So we definitely need LNG, which is competitive and not always, as Maria said, talk about, our competitiveness only, because we are really, tariffs are not playing substantial role. Here we are talking about geopolicy, where what matters is reliable supply. So LNG matters. If there are signs, at least this vertical gas corridor is giving a platform for LNG coming in America through, why not selling directly to Naftogaz? Let's try, let's start. We are going to optimize on the way, but talking only how we can optimize better with vertical corridor in a difficult situation and in not an easy geopolitical environment with cheap Russian gas and not so easy and no so this phase out, which is happening in 2027, I'm not quite sure how it's going to be tracked exactly, because if it's coming from Turkey, for example, who is going to track the molecule? So lots of questions are kind of not clear how it's going to happen. So for me, this commitment, I could say, at least from my perspective, that we here are quite committing this to happen. It's like cause this vertical gas corridor to happen. So we need really now, like always, by the way, the support of USA through really actions with LNG. Even small steps, but just to start. That's my message.
Thank you so much. Mr. Malinov?
Yeah, in principle, I don't have nothing to add to what was mentioned, because professionals are professionals. But I had the advantage being in another position, trying to play a politician for a few months, and maybe I have a solution which is maybe outside of the frame of the picture, because by virtue, the pipeline gas is cheaper than the LNG. It's a technological process, long logistic way, regasification, all that stuff, not to go that. But, and knowing that upcoming weeks and months will be very US oriented in the region, not just the PTEC, which was mentioned, which will happen in November, but also the GasTech, where both heads of Energy Dominant Council will be present in Milano next week. Maybe to achieve that goal, we should go and look much more above, which means that maybe they have, as I call them, 4 big A's, which are American LNG, American financing, American investment, and to turn the US LNG and to cover that gap between the pipeline gas, whatever today is Russian, okay, there will be the regulation for the REPowerEU will be endorsed by the European Union by the end of the year. And let's hope that 1st of January 2028, we will have a full ban of the Russian gas. But then will come another pipeline gas, which by virtue will be. So to turn the LNG into another energy, into power generation, because this will be seen in the region very shortly, that there will be a huge lack of electricity. So if we combine US LNG with the US investment, US technology, and US financing into, for example, combined cycle, the so-called CCGTs, then it will become much more attractive. Because our region is really, because we started talking about Greece becoming an energy hub. Okay, I'm a little bit of a jealous, maybe regional hub, but this is where the lack of electricity is the potential of bringing the attractiveness of LNG. The infrastructure will be in place. Just one word, for the increasing of the capacity between Greece and Bulgaria, we are already 80% done with the construction works. Q1 of next year or beginning of Q2 will be fully ready. We have commenced the construction works on increasing the capacity towards Romania 2 weeks ago. Also will be ready. So the ball is back in your field.
Mr. Satlas, would you like to expand on that, or maybe you can give us your brief thoughts on how in the private-public partnerships and the government initiatives, they all align to ensure efficiency and overcome the problems that were stated before?
Yes, actually, Mr. Marino Vlado gave a good pass. We are all in the energy field, so we know how interconnected, let's say, is gas and electricity. So one needs the other and vice versa. It's good that in Greece we are building a lot of thermoelectric plants. So we're trying to use this gas. We don't want gas to be wasted. And this is the way forward, not only to be, let's say, the hub, but also to consume what we're getting in. Yes, the US help is needed here to support, so as to, let's say, go one step ahead with this. What I also would like to say on the sentence that Vlado started with regarding pipeline gas versus LNG. Yes, pipeline gas is cheaper. However, LNG can be transferred to more places, so it's more, let's say, movable. So everybody has to think about it, and we should build on it, because right now we're speaking about security of supply. We don't know what's going to happen. For example, the Vertical Corridor Initiative, we launched these products. We're expecting a lot of gas to flow. However, bombing in Ukraine stopped part of it. You never know. But we should continue. We should build the infrastructure, work on it, and at the end, we'll be rewarded.
Okay, thank you about that. I like how you compared the benefits of the LNG, and since the cost difference between Russian gas and American LNG was highlighted by most of the panelists, I'd like to ask Mr. Huck a little bit to elaborate on that. What considerations should be taken when comparing cost of these two commodities?
Well, yes, thanks very much. And I don't have too much to add beyond what my colleagues have really, I think, expertly laid out in terms of the realities that we face when we're looking at price competition across the region and the kind of pros and cons of piped gas versus LNG. I guess I would just add, in case it's not obvious to all listeners, of course, the other side of it is that there are hidden costs to Russian gas. And this is something that we have seen. It's arguably the main story that we've learned over the past several years, all of the negative externalities that have accrued to European security by being over-reliant on Russian gas. And whether that's the supply, unpredictable supply shortages, the political coercion, manipulation, support for corruption, things like that we've seen and have been well documented all over the region. So there is that piece of it to consider as well, that you're not really comparing apples and oranges when you're talking about Russian gas with gas, say, from reliable other suppliers. But on the broader point about the four A's, were there four or I can only say first it's far better to be wanted than not wanted. So very happy to hear that further U.S. engagement and investment and attention is desired. I can tell you that this is a very high level project. Particularly, I'm speaking of the vertical corridor, but beyond that, more broadly, increasing U.S. Exports of LNG. So believe me when I say that there is an enormous amount of interest in this. Now, with U.S. companies and investment, then of course it gets back to some of the points that Kostas mentions, that the numbers have to add up at the end of the day. It needs to be competitive. And there may be roles there where the U.S. and the EU at the macro level can talk about ways that we can help to facilitate that. But there's an enormous amount of work here to be done, but we see, again, enormous potential. So I could easily see us coming back here in a year and talking about all the progress that we've made across those four A's and in all the areas that we've addressed here. This is not going to happen on its own. That much is clear. No one of the countries here alone can do this. We're going to have to cooperate and advance it together. But personally, I'm quite optimistic about our chances and the way forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, taking the time into consideration, we have 4 minutes left. So maybe I should ask you all to make a final statement before we close this very interesting panel. Thank you. So,
Okay.
Mr. Sifneus.
I suppose that's the right direction.
Unless Mr. Hack wants to add anything, but
I don't want to
You've,
monopolize the time.
you've used your
Please,
time.
I
Thank you.
cede the floor to my
Okay.
colleague.
No, it's the size of the opportunity. The size of the opportunity, if it's translated to LNG cargoes, we're looking at 300 cargoes per year. It's a big opportunity. It's there. I think that could justify. This is a lot of millions, billions for the U.S. economy, and I'm sure they realize that. And I think when it comes to Greece, it's obvious that this is not going to be fully captured by Greece, but this could justify more regasification capacity and more infrastructure investment if we can capture a material part of this opportunity.
Thank you. Mrs. Galli, please.
Well, just let me play a bit the technical comment here to say that, let's say, yes, there are differences between pipe and LNG, not because at the end of the molecule is CH4 and burns in the same way. Something that with increased penetration of LNG in countries like the one of Greece, Southeast Europe, where we have a lot of renewables, we will have also to take into account is the growing need of storage, because LNG is discrete, it doesn't come with the same flexibility of the pipe. So let's say when it comes to, it's very important to add all the pieces and make sure that we don't forget some of them. So let's say we also have to think that make the value chain work technically.
Thank you. Mrs. Georgieva, please.
So I think that what I heard is that vertical gas corridor is of high importance for USA, which is really promising. It means that our efforts worked, and soon we are going to see the return. So I stay positive and waiting for activation of more LNG to come through a vertical corridor, which I'm sure that is going to come. So our collaboration and staying united is going to be paid off. So I mean, I'm sure that even next year at this conference we can share much more positive news.
Okay. We look forward to next year's conference. Mr. Malinov, please.
I was trying to write down a word from each of the previous participants, like a key message to be delivered to the audience. Kostis mentioned opportunities. Maria mentioned value chain. Teddy mentioned like activation. Yeah. And you mentioned, maybe I will mention celebration on the next, catching to your words, yeah, on the next 10th forum, we to have the chance really, based on those words, to celebrate the 4As.
Okay, I like that. Thank you very much. Mr. Satlas, please.
Yes, I'm last but not least, but I will stay with the positiveness. So we have to be positive. We're doing it. And at the end, what we can say is the famous last words. It is the market, smart market.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of celebration, we can all have a rehearsal tonight at the reception on the 7th floor.
For sure.
So I wish to thank all the panelists for very engaging discussions and especially for keeping the time, which is very important. Thank you so much.
Thank you for